Today, what we wanted to talk about was consistency in the middle of a storm. And we call all aspects of bipolar the storm because no matter if you're high, no matter if you're low, no matter if you're in the middle, of course, obviously the highs and lows, it's obvious, why we call those a storm.
Mm-hmm.
But even in the middle, we call that a storm because it's always a challenge to maintain it. And what are the things that we're talking about that we can do to, that are going to get us through all these different changes of sometimes of, gigantic proportions. And so the things that we know to do are, we've started a group, right? A few weeks
Attending
ago.
a group. We didn't start the group.
Right. We've started attending the group
Correct.
a few weeks ago, and we go together,
Yes,
right?
because as much as the person suffering with the mental illness needs it, the loved ones need it even as much.
That's true.
Because it's
This is
the hardest
true.
thing to put yourself in the position
Yeah.
of that person who is, the patient.
Yeah.
And it's also super helpful to be around other people who can affirm your experience and then convey that to your loved one.
Right, right. And whereas I started going to support Alex and to create consistency because people that are depressed, they don't want to go. People that are manic, they want to go everywhere. But that's why I went. And there are actually several other, couples like us with their moms, with their adult children in this group that we've started going to, so that they get to know Alex, that they get to know. Well, they're going to get to know me regardless, but the point is for them to get to know Alex and the different phases of her personality, and to offer helpful suggestions and advice as she's able to accept those.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other thing is therapy. It took a while. We found a really good therapist now that Alex has, created a good rapport with. In fact, when you were depressed, she offered you some really helpful advice that you latched onto right away. Do you want to talk about what that was?
Well, it didn't latch on right away. I mean, when I was depressed, I had to practice what they call in DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, opposite action, which you don't have to be a mental health patient to do that. Any human should do that, which is don't act upon how you feel. Do the opposite of how you feel. So meaning if I just feel like staying in bed all day, I'm actually going to get up in the morning, I'm going to go do all my things, and I'm going to be productive, which is the opposite of how I feel. So what Raquel told me, and when I was depressed, it seemed like every day it was getting worse. And I kept having these weird images and saying that it was going to last for 50 years.
Yeah, we were saying
which was
that.
very discouraging.
Yeah,
And
I'm going to be in the same place in 50
just
years.
extrapolating and going into the future and saying all sorts of crazy scenarios that would cause anyone to be depressed. But it was one of those days. And my thing when I get depressed is that I feel like, or I say that I don't love my husband and kids and my family, which is such a lie because family to me is the number one thing. So what Raquel said to me that day in the car, which was
On
like
the
the
Zoom
week
call.
before
Mm-hmm.
I came out of it, she said, I want you to focus on finding purpose as being a mom. So I would walk around and say that my purpose is to be a mom. And then I added a wife. And like right after that, we went to HEB and got pumpkins to decorate my house and carving tools so my kids could make carved pumpkins. So yeah, she's really good. I really like her. And then yesterday we started a new it's a trauma modality therapy. It's alternative. It's new age, so don't really care if you agree, but I'm going to share it. Essentially, you go in using these different techniques to come to the root of the issue. It is amazing what comes up, and it's kind of quicker than talk therapy because it just goes straight to the root. And then you do these different techniques to finalize what the process you're going through and the experience. So, and it was cool because my mom got to come. And what else?
Because we do everything together.
Yes, even though I'm a grown woman, I choose to spend my days next to my mom.
That's right, because we're BFFs.
We are. And so is Lizzie.
And Lizzie.
And
Our
a
sister.
strand of 3 cannot be broken.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So
And my other mother, Maria Josefina Jimenez.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's definitely in there, too.
Yeah.
So what I got out of Splankna yesterday was that because so many of these different, we'll call them waves or, mood, some people call them moods, whatever they are, these highs and lows with bipolar, they're triggers. And so far, we have guessed at some of Alex's triggers. The low, the high, the whatever. And this Splankna is supposed to get at what's in your subconscious because that's where those
Yes.
triggers live.
Yes.
And in your parasympathetic nervous system where your reactions occur and you feel you have had no control over it whatsoever. And of course, I think that's where Freud, came from with trying to dig into all of that, the subconscious and whatnot.
And the parasympathetic nervous system, which you don't really talk about. I didn't know what the heck you were talking about when you said it, but it's the freeze mode of fight, flight,
or freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. Alex has, even fainted, even in the past when she was a teenager, when in a stressful situation. So she has a really strong parasympathetic response to trauma and and events and stress.
And I don't necessarily, like, as a person, I don't necessarily feel it and then make that choice. It just happens.
Yeah, and so the point with this Splankna is to tap into that and where, how, first of all, how come, she deal better with the trauma and get rid of it. And this lady prayed over it, and that was the cure for it, at least the beginning of the cure for it. And, we're believers in Jesus, and that's, a lot of our focus. And that's another way that we're consistent in dealing with all this up and down.
No, but I have
roller
to
coaster
say,
is our belief in Jesus.
Right. But when I was depressed, I was saying, F you, God. I was just saying it all the time.
But that didn't mean you still didn't believe way down inside.
But I literally would ask my husband, do you believe in God? Do you think Jesus is real? And because I didn't, at least didn't think so, that doesn't mean he left me. I left him because he never leaves.
But that's my job, is to stand in the gap. My job is to stick around
All
and
moms,
be consistent.
yeah.
Exactly, all moms. That's,
Yeah.
And be consistent through all these different phases. And, and now Alex is doing well. And so our challenge now is to continue to stay consistent, continue to go to group, continue to go to therapy, continue
Take
to
the
see
meds,
your psychiatrist, and take the meds that he as prescribed.
And don't try and change it,
And
otherwise he'll kick you out.
Otherwise, he'll fire you.
Someone tried to mess with his work.
Well, I'm being a mom. That's my
You're
job.
being
And
a mom.
moms are doctors.
You're a nurse. You are a nurse, but you're also extra. So you went above and beyond, and I got yelled at for it. So thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So we're doc. We're not doing that.
Dr. Marcellus, she gets the picture. She gets it.
Exactly. So anyway, our girl is doing well.
Just another miracle to add to my story.
We're proud of her, and we're continuing to maintain in the middle of the storm, even when it doesn't look like a storm.
But also, I am having to learn to slow down because I'm a person that naturally just goes 1,000 miles an hour. And it can easily be confused for hypomania or mania, which is very annoying. If you have a bipolar family member, please do not come to them and judge them as X without having a conversation with them, because like I've been talking to my friend Vanessa from the support group, and it's really been helpful because I'm telling her how annoyed I am, and she's just saying, don't pay attention, just do what you need to do. So I'm learning to slow down and just seeing what happens.
Well, and also Dr. X said, don't triangulate.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Whereas I would jump in and call her husband and be like, how's she doing today? How's she doing today? She was talking about a minute and things. Or he would call me and say the same thing. He cautioned us to, keep our remarks, either keep them to ourselves or say them to Alex. And I think it's important that we also voice our concerns.
Yeah.
Honestly, we have been traumatized in various of these cycles, and so we tend to overreact, or we tend to jump, and
I mean, understandably so, because if you look at the facts or the experience from prior depressed periods, I mean, you could tell, like, of course you're gonna be scared shitless, but tell me you feel scared.
Yeah.
And obviously I know you want to protect me, but if I hear a third party come at me because they're like, oh, so-and-so told me da-da-da, instead of being like, hey, Alex, how do you feel about that, or what's going on? And then I just, have a conversation instead of get judged prematurely.
Right.
You will have so much more success.
Yeah. In my mind, I think of it like, I categorize it like gossip.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly.
We're gossiping about her behind her back. We're gossiping about Alex behind her back. In fact, I hate it when we're talking in your presence.
Yes.
And people say her.
Yes.
Instead of saying you.
Right.
And I think that's wrong. And we all, we need to include Alex in the conversation always, and and vice versa.
And don't lose sight of the fact that I'm a human. And like my husband told me, like one of the first days I was coming out of it, he said, everyone has suffered, but you've suffered the most. So don't lose sight of the fact that, okay, even though these weird things are happening, I'm still a human. And I'm like, if you look at my last 3 years, I don't know how I made it. I wouldn't have made it without Jesus. And,
right.
I know everyone got hurt, even when I was paralyzed. My kids were very hurt that they weren't with me. As much as a blessing I see it, because they were protected from seeing me in a wheelchair and, not walking. Just don't forget, we're all humans. And we all need a support group.
We all do need
because we're humans
group.
And we share similar experiences. You will never know my experience. I will never know yours. Like having all this, so many family members with bipolar. Oh my gosh, my head would be popping off.
Yeah. So the support group has been great, and it's actually through Remind, and it's free. And you can look them up, and they have them, like almost every day. There's a support group somewhere, right? And it's peer led, and I'm sure they're trained.
No. The leaders are licensed professional therapists, but they're off the clock when they are volunteering their time for the group.
Oh, okay.
But it's just a safe space, and you're holding space. And you're safe. Like last week, someone started to cry, and the lady said to him, "You're safe." And I just thought that was so powerful, because a lot of times we don't say what we actually want to say because we feel unsafe. And I even said that about my husband to someone. My husband, and thank God he's, listening to me, and I'm being seen and heard and loved. And I know his goal was, and also you and Dad, was ultimately love. Even Sophia, who's been mean to me and said some things that I'm like, what the hell are you saying, kid? Like, she felt concerned for me. My other two felt concerned for me. Andrea, we were looking at pictures, and she goes, "Oh, mommy, that's from when you were depressed." I'm like, "Yes." And they're seeing the counselor at their schools. So everyone needs someone to talk to.
And education.
And a safe space, and for people to hold space, meaning no judgment. Say what you need to say. I'm going to hear you. I'm not trying to judge you. Like, you can tell me, you know, people who are, what, satanic? Okay, I'm just saying, if someone came to me and said, "Hey, you know, I am a pagan, and I'm a practicing witch," or whatever, I'm not going to be like, "No, we're burning you at the stakes." That's not what they need, and they will never know Jesus that way. They have to know the love of God, and that's what we have to create for people, is a space for them not just to hear that they're loved, because John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world." They need a space to know and to be seen and to hear and be heard, and that is so hard to find.
Yeah, tangible love.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to
Just
express
like their
tangible
moms.
love. Yeah, moms are great.
Moms, grandmas, dads, daddies,
Yeah.
fathers, all of, like, siblings, kids. I mean, everyone who has a kid knows. I don't know. I just remember when my first daughter was born, I said, "I'm in love with my kid." Like, that is kind of weird to say, and I don't think that I had thought that I would feel that way until I actually became a mom. And
Yes, it's a love that there's so many songs. I think about this all the time. There's so many songs about romantic love, but actually,
yes,
a parent's love of a child supersedes
it
that.
does.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's so infused with so much selflessness.
Yes.
That's where it comes from. That's the nature of it. And you do want to be diminished so your child can
rise above and
and
always, like,
grow.
you're the ceiling for your child, and then they, like, you propel them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so you pour into them.
Yeah.
As your life recedes,
Right.
their life goes, proceeds. So that's what you want.
And if you haven't seen the movie The Shack, or it's been a while, I highly suggest that you watch it, because there's a scene there that the judge, Sophia, who in the word means wisdom, that's my daughter. Her name is Sofia Elena Harris Alvarez. So yes, Sophia, whose first language is Spanish. She, in the movie, they say, you need to do X, and then the dad goes, "I can't, take me." And then she goes, "You have deemed your children worthy of love." And if you look at that in the context of the gospel, like, that's what God did, right? But if you look at it in the context of a parent, and what we do for our kids, it's because we have not just deemed them worthy of love, we have put up with their shit. Like, my kid yesterday told me he hated me and he was trying to kick me, and I'm like, "No, man, I don't care. Do whatever you want to me. It doesn't change my love for you.
Yeah.
Even if you tell me I'm an idiot, like my older daughter says, or my middle daughter,
Or
she
give you
hated
the
me. Everyone
finger.
hates me." Yeah, everyone was giving me the finger. Like, a few weeks ago, my family was, and not my kids, but like my adult family members were telling me to fuck off, and I just laughed, because what the hell? Ultimately, for me, I now see, even though they told me to fuck off, what they were trying to say is, "I love you and I want to protect you, but I don't know how." And so I'm going to try and do these things, and you're like, whoa. I don't need that. Just, I will be me. You be you.
Yeah.
There's only one of us in the world.
Yeah. Family will always be there for us.
Yes.
Even when we annoy one another.
Correct.
Yeah, we'll always be there. And one other thing that I'm learning over the course of all of this, and even, from going to group, is that, bipolar, mental illness, and what we call normal, it's all degrees of the same thing. It's all varying degrees of the human condition,
Correct.
which can suck like
Correct.
nothing else,
Correct.
but can also be the most beautiful, fabulous butterfly.
Yes.
experience.
And that's why I say living in the and yet. I don't know if I've said that to you, but instead of being like, oh, I feel mad and my life is over, you can say, I feel mad and I'm going to love you, or it's yet to happen, or whatever. So it's living in that's what, in the Bible, that's what David always would say, like, though you slay me, yet will I praise you. And that it's even connected to that thing I said called opposite action, because you feel one way, but you're doing something else. And that's the human experience. And that's what we need to live in.
Yeah.
And one thing I would say, though, that you did at group, and I think I corrected you there, is she said, aren't we all bipolar or something? And we're like, no, you're not. I am. and
there's a
again,
difference.
it's like anything. Like, I'm a brain cancer survivor. You're a breast cancer survivor. Different cancer. You had a mastectomy. I had 2 craniotomies. I was paralyzed. Neither of them is better or worse. You had chemo and radiation, and I remember, like, with you, just the process of losing your hair. To me, they just shaved a line. I mean, can't even imagine your hair falling out, especially being a woman.
Well, you shaved it.
I did, but I'm saying neither is better or worse. It's both suffering.
Yeah.
It's both the same cancer, and like me and people in my family are bipolars. But like you said, everyone has highs and lows, and it's all gray in between. And you can live. There can be black and there can be white, but you need to learn to live. We all need to live in the gray.
Yeah, like our son's therapist said, it's all a bell curve, and you want to live in the space in the middle, not at either extraneous end. So, like living your best life, diet, exercise, things in moderation, sleep, taking care of ourselves. And that applies to everybody.
Like, don't go
Spirituality.
to one end, which I could tell you I was.
Yeah,
I would
I've done that.
And it is terrible, and it's not the heart of God. And even my friend on Facebook, she put a post, she said, I was at the store wearing something, like a Christian walked up to her and said, Halloween, if you celebrate Halloween, you're going to hell. It's like, what the fuck are we saying? Why would you, going back to the definition of love, like, you don't know. God doesn't say specifically in the Bible, don't celebrate Halloween. Why? Because Halloween is a man-made holiday. So, okay, I have to go. My family's calling me. But anyway, let's just love. All you need is love.
And we're going to
here's
go
Sergeant
play.
Pepper.
And on that note, we are off to play pickleball. We love you guys. We will see you soon.
Be kind.